guys, it's Carmel Brown, and today is Therapy Thursday. And today I'd like to ask you, who's responsible for keeping the pieces to your puzzles? Have you ever tried putting a puzzle together after losing a piece to the puzzle? What about after losing several pieces to a puzzle? Well, I have, and it's quite awkward. And a missing piece to a puzzle, or several missing pieces to a puzzle, can ruin the overall integrity of the picture in the puzzle and the overall message that the puzzle was meant to communicate. It doesn't matter if it's a 12-piece puzzle or a 1,000-piece puzzle. Missing pieces are very noticeable. And once again, it can change the overall message, the overall integrity of the picture itself. So I want to look at a few major components of our lives that are kind of like little puzzles. Now, I could cover several different areas or components of life, but I'm just going to cover a few for the sake of time. So first and foremost, because I believe relationships are very important, I'm going to talk about relationships. So let's think about the major components of a relationship being puzzle pieces. Things like honesty and trust and commitment and integrity, the physical and mental health of both individuals in the relationship. Things like vision and goals, among other components, but those are just a few that I like to cover or look at as far as pieces today. Think about vision and goals and commitment. Those three pieces, vision, goals, and commitment, missing from a marriage. And you're trying to put that puzzle of a marriage together without those three pieces. The integrity of that relationship is probably going to be negatively impacted as a result of those three very important components missing. When significant or critical parts of a relationship that maybe were once present, and sometimes, in some cases, never present, maybe the box came flawed and there weren't, all the pieces to the puzzle were not there. So maybe it came with 997 pieces instead of 1,000. So this causes major deficits in the relationship or the overall puzzle, and it's detrimental. So it's hard to put that puzzle together and look at it as a whole picture once some of those pieces are gone. For example, let's look at an affair. So there are some things that you shouldn't do that would negatively impact these pieces. So I'm going to look at things like having an affair or being abusive in a relationship. Those types of things can ruin mental health in a marriage of the person who's being abused or the person who was maybe cheated on. And it can ruin the trust and honesty and integrity of the relationship. So there are some things. So these puzzle pieces, it's not just about what you have to have in your relationships. It's also about the things that you shouldn't do in these relationships that help you to keep the puzzle pieces together. Okay? Because some of the things that you do or don't do impact your marriage, your relationship. Work relationships are also the same. Say your work relationship lacks commitment. That's just one puzzle piece out of all these components that we discussed. A lot of employers say your job has to come first. They don't care about your personal life, whether you have a family or whatever. Not all employers are that way. Some employers encourage you to put your family and your mental health first, but not all companies are that way. But if you have a employee-employer relationship that requires this level of commitment and that piece is missing, it's going to be detrimental to the relationship and the overall integrity of the relationship. And the relationship is going to be at risk of not being whole, hence being at risk for termination or resignation or things like that. So I want to also cover a couple of other puzzles and pieces that are involved in those particular puzzles. Let's talk about self-esteem. What is self-esteem? Let's focus on self-image rather than self-esteem, because your self-esteem kind of falls under your self-image. Your self-image is your own ideas and or beliefs about your own abilities, about your appearance, about your personality. It's kind of like a puzzle. Your abilities, your appearance, your personality. Now, if that puzzle of self-image lacks specific major pieces, such as healthy self-esteem, your abilities are going to be compromised, because you're not going to see yourself as being capable or able. You're going to lack in abilities or perception of abilities if you're lacking self-esteem. If you lack confidence, other people can tell that you lack confidence. They can sense it in your demeanor, and it has a negative impact on your overall appearance and your personality as well. So there's going to be significant deficits and shortcomings in your overall self-image. So that puzzle is incomplete. It's not whole. So some things you should refrain from doing in order to keep that puzzle of self-image whole are things like avoiding the tendency to seek validation from other people. So avoiding that tendency to be a people pleaser is really important, and making sure that you maintain a healthy self-image. And then also just making sure that you're not responding to or waiting for other people to respond to you in any particular way. So a person's treatment or response to you or their opinion of you is not driving the way you see yourself, your personality, your appearance, and your abilities. So the next little puzzle that I'd like to discuss is your mental health. You know I'm not going to leave out mental health. So let's look at the major pieces of mental health. Now, there's many, just like there are many to the other areas that we've discussed so far. But I want to look at self-care, medication, your diet, level of physical activity, your coping skills, your support system, among other things. Now, out of those puzzle pieces to mental health, let's just say you are missing the pieces of self-care and poor coping skills and medication. If you're not taking your medication, you're supposed to be taking it for improved mental health, and you're not attending your therapy sessions, so you're not learning or acquiring any healthy coping skills, and you're not engaging in any acts of self-care, the entire picture is going to be incomplete. So some of the things you can do to avoid worsening the status of your mental health would be things like avoiding substance abuse. That's really important. A lot of people don't understand how much of an impact indulgence in chemical dependency can negatively impact mental health. Things like medication and self-care and therapy and coping skills, which you learn in therapy, and physical activity, your diet, your support system. Those are all very important and significant and critical pieces to the mental health puzzle. So if you're missing the piece of medication and you aren't engaging in self-care, and let's just say you lack coping skills, so that piece is missing as well, that entire picture puzzle of mental health will be incomplete. And if your mental health puzzle is incomplete, it's going to have a significant impact on other areas of your life, such as your self-image and your relationships, two of the things we've already discussed. So refraining from substance abuse is something that you can do. We talked about the things you should add and things you should do, but also the things you shouldn't do. Chemical dependency and or substance abuse has a significant negative impact on a person's mental health. It can worsen symptoms. It more than likely will worsen symptoms, and ultimately your disease will become more chronic than had you not used drugs or excessively abused alcohol. So just remember that. So the next puzzle I'd like to discuss is physical health. So what are the important components or the important pieces to physical health? Rest, diet, exercise, regular visits to the doctor, and also things that you should refrain from, such as refraining from doing things that are physically harmful, like overindulging in food and alcohol, or, believe it or not, excessive exercise can also be detrimental to our physical health, because when a person overindulges in even exercise to the extent that they put themselves at risk for injury, sometimes because of that excessive exercising, a person does sustain an injury and it impacts other areas of their life. So say you tear, let's just say you tear a bicep muscle while you're working out because you've been excessive and extreme, or you tear a, let's just say, or you tear a hamstring. Guess what? You're not going to be able to work out for a while. And so because you were excessive and you overindulged in something that was meant to be good for you, you're going to ultimately cause deterioration in your physical and mental health, because then you're going to have to sit out for a while. And when your physical and mental health are negatively impacted, it's going to have a negative impact on your self-image and also your relationships. So just remember that everything in moderation. Go hard in the gym, or if you work outside the gym, wherever you work out, whether you do it at home or at the gym or whatever. Be very careful about putting yourself at risk for injury, because it can have a negative impact to that puzzle of physical health. And when that puzzle is incomplete, it's going to have a negative impact on the other puzzles in your life that we've talked about that may already have some missing pieces. All right. So when you lose pieces to any of these aforementioned puzzles that we just discussed, and you try putting those puzzles back together, those pieces missing makes the puzzle awkward. It makes the puzzle incomplete. It changes the actual picture of the puzzle. And how do people lose pieces to puzzles anyway? That's a good question. Why are there so many people with puzzles with missing pieces? Because they're not being stored properly. What does that mean? They're not being stored in its proper box. They're getting mixed in with other puzzle pieces from other puzzles. Maybe being mixed in with the wrong people is an example of that, or being unequally yoked. Failing to care for the puzzle in its entirety. Being sloppy with the care and the upkeep of the puzzle. So being sloppy with your relationships, not caring that you're leaving major pieces on the table instead of carefully picking up each piece and putting them in the box and making sure that the entire puzzle, each and every piece, is intact and it's stored properly. So I want to ask you, are you treating every single piece of these puzzles as important as the next piece? And is each puzzle just as important as the other puzzle? Is your mental health just as important as your physical health? Is your self-esteem and your self-image just as important as your relationships with other people? Are you not leaving out one or two? Or do you even know if you're leaving out one or two? Because you're not being careful with the puzzles of your life. And who's responsible for your puzzles anyway? Who's storing them for you? Who's responsible for making sure that you're happy, that you're healthy, and that you're successful, and that you're whole? Should be you. Now, you can appoint people to help you to store your puzzles, to keep the pieces of your puzzles together. But you have to be very careful about who you appoint for this job. You have to make sure that the people that you appoint to help you store and maintain the puzzles and the pieces of each and every puzzle of your life are, number one, capable, number two, willing, and also that they have your best interest at heart. And then also making sure that just overall they're the right person for the job. Sometimes we appoint people that are not capable. They are not even interested, and we're trying to appoint them to help us store and maintain capable pieces. Number two, willing, and also that they have your best interest at heart. And then also making sure that just overall they're the right person for the job. Sometimes we appoint people that are not capable. They are not even interested, and we're trying to appoint them to help us store and maintain pieces. Stop allowing other people to strip you of your wholeness or even the potential for wholeness. If they aren't helping you grow and heal and succeed at life and to achieve wholeness, they shouldn't be responsible for making sure all of your pieces are in the box before putting the lid on it, because I guarantee you they're going to leave a few pieces out. It simply isn't that important to them. So the next time you realize that you're missing pieces to important puzzles of your life, figure out which pieces you're missing first. Then figure out how relevant those pieces are to the overall integrity of the puzzle, meaning your life and your overall well-being. If the puzzle is repairable or fixable, and then how to repair this puzzle. And then you have to ask yourself, will this always be a lost piece or something that you can't get back? And if you have answered yes to that question, then you have to determine how you're going to accept it, how you're going to cope with it, and how you're going to function without that piece. And another question I want you to ask yourself is how you lost that piece in the first place. A who, why, what, and when. And the reason I want you to ask and answer that question is because I don't want you to lose that piece. I don't want you to ruin that puzzle, the integrity of that puzzle, the overall picture and message of that puzzle. Again, once you have restored wholeness in that puzzle, in that area, in your relationships, in your mental health, in your self-image, and overall view of yourself, in your physical health, I want you to be able to maintain it. And I want you to make sure that you're appointing the right people to help you to store and maintain your overall sense of well-being and wholeness. Hey, it's Therapy Thursday. I'm Carmel Brown, and that's all I have for you today. I'll see you next time.